Bohemians morning show.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's talk about your all's film.
Okay.
The Barkley Marathons, the race that eats its young. So I did read up on this a little bit, but do you want to just tell our listeners what it's about and how you all got interested in this topic?
Sure. So the Barkley Marathons is an ultra marathon that when we heard or actually read about the film or the race itself, it had been going on for 25 years and only 10 people had ever finished it. So it's an ultra marathon, and that's an ultra marathon is anything. It's generally anything over a marathon. So anything above.
0.6.2.
Yeah. So this is actually turns out to be close to 5 marathons in a row.
Oh my gosh.
And so this was something that, Tim can explain where we found out about it.
Yeah, we read an article in Believer magazine, and when we kind of describe it as, finding this sort of sports-oriented story, but in a literary magazine. If it was in something like Sports Illustrated or, some other sports type media, we probably would have never seen it. Neither one of us are really into sports in general. So we read this article, and it was fascinating. First of all, that statistic that in the first 25 years, only 10 people had finished, and yet we had never heard about it. It just seemed incredible to us. And so, the more we read and then we started to do some research, the more we became fascinated by it, and it seemed very colorful. And we moved very quickly to find out if there was any, other work done, other documentaries done about it, and there hadn't been in 25 years. So within a month, we were on our way, and we went to Tennessee and met with the race director and scouted the hills of Tennessee, and that's kind of how we started. It happened very quickly from the point where we learned about it to the point where we started actually actively, prepping and shooting and getting ready.
Wow. Part of the reason why it was so curious to us as well, we don't want to give away too much of the story,
right.
But it is this secret kind of cult-like thing that people come from all over the world to do. And it's a lot of people call it the hardest trail race in the world. It never self-describes as such, but people often tend to think of it as the hardest trail race in the world. And just that it had all these people come from all over the world to do it, and a lot of people in Tennessee don't know about it, and it has a very interesting origin story of how it was created and why it was created, and we can talk about that a little bit too.
Right, it's something about prison breakout, right?
Yeah, so there was a very high-profile prison escape that happened in the area, and the race creator or co-creator, who goes by the name Lazarus Lake, which isn't his real name, but that's what he is known as. He heard about this prison escape, which is a very well-known event that took place, and he had been in the hills around that area where the prison was, and the escapee only made it a very small distance from the prison in 54 hours because of the terrain being so difficult in that area. So he thought, I could go much further in that amount of time, and came up with this idea of this race, which his idea of creating it was basically to create something that is at the absolute limit of human capability. That's sort of the point and idea of it, so that you really push yourself as hard as humanly possible to see what you can do, what you can accomplish.
Oh, yeah, and it seems like if you can finish this race, then no prison can hold you. That's what it seems like to me.
That's a really good connection. I don't know if you've ever thought about it that way. That's great.
So part of the reason why the race is so difficult is that as the elevation change. Besides the fact that you go off on your own, you get a map and a compass. There's no technology allowed. There's no aid out there. But the terrain and there's no course markings or anything. You just have to find your way. But the terrain is an elevation change is, if you finish it, it's 120,000 feet of elevation change.
Oh, wow. So it's obviously in East Tennessee, right? With the mountains. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about, it's called the Barkley Marathons. The subtitle is The Race That Eats Its Young. So where does that come from?
It's a phrase that the runners themselves have used. They say a lot of things about it, but it's something that basically chews them up and spits them back out. Only a few have actually survived its grip. So, but it's addicting enough of a sensation to get chewed up and spit out, because a lot of people keep coming back for more and trying it again. But
when you see people start the race versus when they come back, and the way it's set up is a looped course, so it's 5 loops to finish. And most people, I don't know exactly what the statistic is, but most people maybe do 1 loop. A lot of people quit on that first loop. And when you see them at the start versus when they come in, they are just ripped up. They run through briars, so their legs are all scratched up, and they're exhausted and tired, and it's really a sort of mind over matter. Obviously, their bodies, and they have to be athletically fit, but a lot of it is really a mental game. And so that phrase is, I think, really descriptive of what the race does to people. Yeah.
And so have people actually died on it?
No one. It's funny. A lot of people ask us that question. No one has died yet. We like to say. That is not happening yet. Yeah. We have met some people there who have been there many times, and it's have run it over the course of 25 years a number of times, and it's a really special, important place and event for them, and it sort of becomes this family of people. And so there are some people out there who I think would be happy to have their last day while running Barkley, but we hope that does not happen.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I can't believe I've never heard of this. It being in Tennessee, like you said, it's a lot like people's Everest or their Iditarod.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I guess they don't want it to be a real public thing, right? Because they only want the diehard people.
Well, they definitely want somebody who isn't going to get hurt out there. Even though there's, people that come with a variety of skills, he does go through a process and tries as much as possible to weed out people who don't belong there.
And that's for their own safety and, well-being mainly.
Yeah.
So every element of the race itself, even before you get there, the application process is a secret. You don't know when it's going to start. It can start between midnight and noon. There are all these elements to take people off of their game, and Laz likes to say that if you can't get through these hurdles, then you probably shouldn't be there in the first place, and that's how they kind of weed people out for who actually gets to run the race, because only around 40 people run it each year.
Oh, wow. It only costs $1.60 entry fee, right?
Yes, $1.60 entry fee, and that's for the application. But if you do get accepted, and to apply is a host of other things. There's an essay involved and usually a test as well. But if you do get accepted, then there are some other requirements upon your arrival to the race, and I'll let people see the movie to find out what.
Right. I know. I don't want to give too many things away for myself.
We can give away lots of details, but the film itself is still something that we could give you all the details of the whole race, and it's still an amazing thing to see, and people are still sort of, astounded by the end of it. Because we happened to go there in a year that was the most amazing thing to happen and will never be recreated because of the people that were in it and the stories that actually came out.
Oh, wow. Well, okay, we don't want to go. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. There's something important to say probably is that, as much as we like talking about, the adventure that they go through running and everything, Annika and I never really set out to make a running movie. Just as we had said in the beginning, it's like we weren't really sports oriented and we wouldn't have been interested in a sports article, but something had grabbed us and enticed us enough to pursue this. And in the end, this is now 3 years later, going through this process of making the movie, we're still super excited about it. And yet we're still not, like super hardcore sports people. We love the story. And, we're presenting this as a documentary, not just to sports people. I think, anybody would be fascinated by it. And, even though these runners put themselves in a situation to kind of bring themselves to their extreme, to push themselves, to learn more about themselves, everybody has their own thing that, maybe this will inspire you to go run the Barkley, but maybe it'll inspire you to do something else in your life. And, at the end, there's a core to the story that, making challenges for yourself and preparing for those challenges and, coming out on the other side, win or lose, success or fail, there's value in all the pain that you're going to go through.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a story about survival and the human spirit for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this, since we don't want to give too much away. So, since it's so difficult for even just a human to get through this race, but how did you get cameras and crews or things like that around the race?
That was something that from the very beginning, when we had this idea to do this, we worked with the race director, Laz, and got his approval of everything. And we went out and scouted a month ahead of time, and he showed us where he would be okay with us putting cameras and putting people. And so there were some places where, he said you could put a camera here, but not a person. Any place he put us, it wouldn't have affected their navigation. So that, it didn't help them in the race. And it was really important to us that when we were filming, that how we filmed wasn't going to impede anyone's race or, affect their race in any way, that we tried to remain as invisible as possible, which I think for, something like this and any documentary really, you're trying to do. You're trying to just see what's happening and be a viewer in that event versus anything else where you're affecting what's happening in the moment. So that was really important to us, that we abided by everything that Laz wanted and, had the least amount of impact possible on the race.
Okay.
There would have been no way possible to run alongside anyone, through this whole thing. And we didn't want to do that either because, like Tim said, this isn't really a running movie. It's about something else. And that's, to us personally, would have been sort of a boring movie to watch. But we were able to cover some important places in the race, and one of the runners actually did wear a GoPro that he just was going to wear for himself during part of it, so we have some spots out there as well that we wouldn't have been able to get otherwise.
Okay, he just shared the footage with you?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm so excited to see it. I'll probably see you guys around on Sunday, too. I'll look for you.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so and if I can't see it on Sunday, I'll definitely see it on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's this Sunday, the 19th at 4:15, and Wednesday, April 22nd at 4:30, and it's going to be a great screening. Sunday's actually, tickets are going fast for Sunday, so if Sunday is not available, then come to Wednesday, but we are going to have special guests, very special guests, at both screenings, and I don't want to really give that away either because it's too special.